Hello, my name is Marshall Fike, and this is my 1 and C for the STEM app. So, I will be reading some cards, some spoofs, some spaffs, some goofs, some gaffs, and we'll get started here in about 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0. Alright, so judge for a quick roadmap, I'm going to be going over 2 topicality and then 2 DAs. Alright, so first for my first topicality, increase. A definition, Merriam-Webster Dictionary, to make greater as in number, size, strength, or quality. B, violation, the affirmative team does not specify if they are increasing funding or not, or how much they are increasing funding by. Since they didn't have this specified in their plan and they couldn't answer it in cross-ex, we can't assume that they're increasing any funding at all. C, standards. 1, common man. This definition comes from a common dictionary that you or I would use to look up a word. Therefore, these are the definitions we should look to in today's round. 2, ground. The affirmative team's case is too broad. If you allow affirmative teams to simply do research, then they can research anything. But researching something and increasing are 2 separate issues. 3, limits. The resolution creates limits that the affirmative team can and cannot do. If you look to the affirmative team's plan, they are not within the limits of the resolution. D, voters want education. The purpose of the debate is to promote education, but becomes difficult when the affirmative team does not stay within the resolution. 2, stock issues. Topicality is one of the 5 stock issues. It should be taken into account in today's debate. 3, a priority. Topicality governs debate because it enforces the resolution. It limits what the affirmative team can do, and is therefore the first thing we should look to when debating, as I have by presenting this attack in the 1C. This is also the first thing you should look to when judging this round. So basically what that was saying is that we can't assume that they are increasing their funding by any because they don't specify in their plan, and we can't just assume they're increasing funding. They have to specifically state it in their plan, but they did not. And then I gave you some reasons to vote on it and some reasons to prefer our definition. So next to my other topicality, which is substantially. 1 definition, substantial means more than 20%. 2, violation, the affirmative team increases by we don't know how much percent. So we can assume 0% since they didn't give us an exact number. 3, standards, bright line. We, the negative team, create a clear definition of what is and what is not the resolution. These definitions should be preferred because they show a clear interpretation of the resolution. 2, limits, so I'm going to carry that over from my other one, and then I'm going to carry over my voters. So basically that was saying that since they're not increasing, they can't be substantially increasing either. It just goes hand in hand with each other, kind of. And then I gave you some reasons to prefer our definition and carried over my voters. So, next to my fraud DA. So basically what this is saying is if they're creating a new program or increasing funding for something without any oversight, we don't know if that money is going to be spent how it's supposed to be. So Link, the affirmative team admitted in the first cross-ex that their plan included no money for oversight. The impact of this is that programs without oversight have money wasted or even stolen from them. From Odell and Sanchez, 2017. As state lawmakers debated created a school voucher program 6 years ago, critics warned that the legislation had a serious flaw. It would be impossible for the public to see how the money was spent. The auditing requirements were so weak that they were almost a sham. Matt Shonley of the Senator Coalition for Arizona told lawmakers during a March 2011 House Ways and Means Committee hearing on the Empowerment Scholarship Account Program. As the programs ended, resources to scrutinize the expenditures made using state-provided debit cards never kept pace. The legislature gave the Department of Education money for the program, but wouldn't authorize spending much of it. These warnings of lax oversight and little accountability proved prescient. The money was misspent, but the state recovered almost none of it. For example, some of the parents transferred all of their scholarship money into a 529 college savings account and then left the program, preventing the state from recouping the funds. Others pocketed the money and sent their gifts to public schools. Some purchased books or other materials using their state-issued debit cards and then immediately returned them. The refunded money was put on gift cards, allowing parents to spend it without scrutiny. So basically what that was saying is that if we don't have any oversight over people actually using these STEM funds toward the STEM program as they're supposed to be, and we can't tell if it's actually going to be used for that. So, next on to my second DA, which is Kansas on steroids. So basically, it's called this Kansas on steroids DA because if we pass their legislation, it's saying that they said that people are going to like it. So if people are going to like it, then it's going to improve Trump's popularity, allowing the Republicans to win the midterms in 2018, and they're going to be able to pass tax cuts, which would be Kansas on steroids, and we all know how bad that is. So the first observation is uniqueness. Trump's low approval ratings will let the Democrats win the House majority in 2018. Lambrecht 17. There is no doubt that the House is in play, Representative Bailugin told the reporters. Polls showing eroding support for Republicans in more than 24 House districts because of Trump. A president's popularity is often a key factor in congressional contests. The most important leading indicator for 2018 is Trump's approval rating, which is 40% or lower. That's a big, bright red warning sign that is flashing. If Trump's approval rating remained that low or go even lower, I think Democrats are going to have a pretty good year in terms of recruitment and have a shot at picking up the House. Observation 2, link. Successful legislation will boost Trump, allowing the Republicans to keep control of Congress. This is from Inton in 17. Trump's current approval rating is 38%. Historically, we expect a president that unpopular to cause his party to lose. The question going forward is whether Trump can improve his approval ratings or whether the congressional Republicans can distance themselves from the Trump brand. If either occurs, then the Republicans stand a good chance of holding on to their majority of the House. Observation 3, internally. GOP will move past tax reform after the 2018 midterms, White 17. Major tax bills could slide next year given the number of tasks facing President Trump and the GOP in the rest of this year. It's going to be hard to get tax reform done even in 2018 because of the midterm elections could slip to 2019. Observation 4, impact. Trump's tax bill would be Kansas on steroids, Weissman 2017. It's hard to think of more obvious recent political or public policy failure than the tax cuts that Kansas Governor Sam Brownback championed in 2012. The state has been mired in perpetual budget crisis ever since the package passed, forcing its residents to swallow the painful spending cuts in essential areas like education. Somehow, the sharpest minds in the Trump administration have gazed upon the smoldering ashes of this misbegotten experiment and decided that they should imitate it. While the one-page document lacked much of the way of detail, it confirmed that the president wanted to cut the tax rate on so-called pass-through businesses to 15%, which would amount to a bigger, potentially more disastrous version of Brownback's ill-fated cuts. This would be Kansas on steroids, Eric Toder, co-director of the Tax Policy Center, told me. It would add about 0.12% to the country's annual growth rate, but again at a cost of about $1.5 trillion. So basically that what DA was saying is Trump's tax cuts, if he wins the midterms, because of their plan, are actually going to be really devastating. So in conclusion, I went over Topicality, I went over increase and substantial, which go hand in hand. We don't know how much funding they're increasing. I went over the fraud DA, saying they have no money for oversight, so we don't know if their funding is going to be spent correctly. And then I just went over that Kansas steroid DA. So with that, I'm open for cross-examination for the points of clarification.